Welcome to Our Stories Matter, We Will Dance Again. I'm Susie Hess, joined by my co-host Miri Bar Halpern. This season, we're diving into stories of Jews, Arabs, and Christians, stories of hope and resilience during times of war. Today, we'll be exploring resilience, compassion, and the power of mental health support. Dr. Or Dweck is a licensed clinical psychologist and professor currently serving as a mental health lieutenant in the IDF, where he provides mental health support to soldiers on the front lines.
Or Dweck's work is both inspiring and deeply personal. While helping others process trauma, he also confronts his own trauma and offering a powerful example of resilience and humanity.
He so does, and in this episode, we'll discuss resilience, the role of mental health in times of war, and how compassion can thrive even in the most difficult circumstances. So as we're sort of reflecting on his episode, I have a story I want to share about my own experience with trauma and finding, I guess, courage within a community experiencing war, but it's a different kind of war. My war was intimate partner violence, and my personal history involves basically being in a violent relationship while I was working at a domestic violence shelter. Now, that is a big no-no because you are supposed to be putting your oxygen mask on first before you help others. Like, how can you help others if you haven't already helped yourself? So I was living in hiding during that time, and I knew I would lose my job if they knew that I was in a violent relationship. So living in hiding has been just common in terms of like my own lived experience. What these women didn't know is how much their resilience and courage were actually healing for me. Supporting them as they were navigating their own suffering gave me the strength to leave my own violent relationship. Yeah, that experience revealed the incredible power of collective healing and resilience in a different kind of war.
Susie, first of all, thank you so much for sharing this very intimate part of your life. And I mean, our listeners, they don't know a lot about us and who we were before October 7th. And then we have our own struggles and our own lived experience. And it made me think about how much we really don't know what's happening in someone's inner world and the importance of community healing. And, you're also raising a really good point about the importance of taking care of ourselves so we can be there for others. This is incredibly important for mental health professionals, but also for parents. And I remember the moment when I realized I needed help in the last year. And granted, it took my best friend, Michal, flying in to have an intervention with me and a few other people around me that are basically my community to tell me, you need to pause. You need to take care of yourself before you're taking care of others.
Wait, where did Michal fly in from?
Denver, Colorado.
Oh my gosh, that was so nice. She flew across the country because she knew that you needed support?
Yeah. It was between her and a few other friends, another Michal and Fen and my husband. A few people were like noticing that I'm so much in it that I didn't take a moment to breathe and take care of myself. And they were worried. This is my small community here as an immigrant.
What an amazing friend, Michal.
Yes, I'm truly, truly blessed. I have great friends around me that became my second family. But the other thing I'm thinking about is that the living reality of people in the Middle East right now is this continuing traumatic stress. People have been evacuated from their homes in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Israel for over a year. Some of them really cannot even go back to their homes yet. And one of the things that I've been hearing when I was talking with people from this region is that the community was really helpful in the healing and in keeping them together. But that made me think about what about people within the community that are really struggling, but they're worried and they don't want to show it to other people. Right? Like, who's helping them? And I think that Or's story and Or's intervention is so important because it actually helps break the shame cycle by bringing intervention to those that are in need, maybe before they even know that they need it.
100%. And mental health within the military is just, it was an incredible, incredible episode.
Can't wait to have you guys listen to it.
Today we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Or Dweck.
Nice to have you here, Or.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Maybe we can start with just the beginning of if you can tell us where you were on October 7th.
Yeah, sure. So I live in kibbutz, not far from Sderot, basically, from the Gaza Strip, 2.5 miles from Gaza Strip, give or take. So 6:30, I wake up to the sounds of explosions, basically, and sirens. My house is full with balloons because it's my son's birthday. and we tried to understand what's the situation. It took us a while to realize the magnitude of what's going on. But we basically knew that the party that was planned this evening for my kid's birthday is going to be canceled, etc. And around 11 or something, I'm contacting one of my friends who lives in the inn. She has a kibbutz who she was infiltrated. And I just kind of text him alive. And he said, for now. And I said, like, the terrorists, are they at your place as well? And he's like, they're all over, dude. Hope it will be okay. I asked him about his kids. He said one of them is not with him, and he tries to kind of reconnect. And then in our kibbutz, no one infiltrated, but they asked for people with some military background to come and help guard the fences, basically. We didn't have any guns or something. So they asked, they kind of grouped us together. One person who has some kind of pistol and a person who doesn't. Basically, I spent the rest of the day kind of guarding some location in the kibbutz, kind of looking outside to see if someone is getting near, watching its unimaginable amount of ambulances and helicopters coming up and down to evacuate wounded from the scenes. It try to imagine for 8 hours, I see constantly the ambulances come and go and the choppers kind of touch down and go up again and again. And it took me a while to kind of understand what I'm seeing, the magnitude of it. At one time, I kind of texted my friend and asked him what's going on. He said he met his son, but they are still locked in their safe room. And it was like that until midnight or so. That was me on October 7th. On October 8th, I kissed my family goodbye and went to the base to kind of recruit, basically.
I'm thinking about what you said about texting your friend and his response, for now. I don't know if people can really understand what it means, because it is for now, because I think on October 7th, there was really not knowing who's going to come back.
Yeah, no, I think you have many layers of trauma there. The shattered trust, different levels. One of them is the trust that the IDF will be there when needed. So we Israelis are kind of can grasp the idea of some terrorist infiltrating some place for some amount of time, even causing damage or killing someone. But the idea that the IDF is not there immediately is something that was shattered. And yeah.
So I know that one of the things you were doing was very novel. I don't think that people around the world have been doing that.
Yeah, so now I'm gonna use some intellectualization, right? It's easier. So we know that once some kind of memory is encoded, we have kind of a window between, let's say, around 48 hours or so, that the memory is still kind of in a labile state that can be altered in a way. And so from that, we can deduct that this window is the best time to kind of intervene following a traumatic event, if you want to lower the chances or prevent PTSD or something similar. And that notion is relatively known around the world and in armies as well. But no one kind of battle tested it the way it was tested at this kind of war. And the idea was to basically try to contact the soldiers who had some kind of, let's say, extreme event. Maybe they lost their friend or something like that, and try to come as soon as possible, at least within this window, and help the commanders and the soldiers kind of rearrange the narrative in a way that will basically emphasize their strengths and their competence, and hopefully will generate some kind of narrative that is more, that they will be capable of living with more and kind of organized as something that happened to them in the past. The difference between this and a traumatic narrative is the traumatic narrative is fragmented. It has pieces of different kinds of memories. It can be smell, it can be a visual memory, it can be some sound, and they are unorganized. And they have this haunting feature. What we understand both from clinical perspective and also kind of neuroscience perspective is that it works on kind of a different circuits, and we wanna move that to the circuit of a very sad story that happened to us, but it's still a coherent story. So the chances of it becoming a traumatic story, something that will haunt us, are lower.
So you're saying like within those 2 days is critical. And then how are you even having those discussions during a war? Because you're basically providing mental health in the battlefield.
Yeah, that was a bit controversial at the beginning. So we had, I think for me, I had at least 2 stages. The first one is the first days. I told you about October 7th, but on October 9th, I was already in some of the kibbutzes that were hit with soldiers because they were witnessing pictures and things that they had trouble, let's say, coping or digesting. And then that was like the first time I kind of had that dilemma whether I should intervene in a way or let them continue with their actions because they're soldiers, they need to be ready, whatever. By the way, it's important to acknowledge the fact that, usually when we say soldiers, we're talking about mostly young people. So they are very healthy physically. And usually they are quite resilient because they were trained, they went through something in their training that if it was too hard for them, then they wouldn't be there now. They wouldn't finish their course of training. Most of them are quite resilient. And then I had this discussion with the commander of one of the groups of soldiers, and he said something like, "Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm thinking maybe if I will open that, it will kind of make them like ruminate into those things, and it will kind of take them down, and I don't want that." And I said, "Yeah, I agree. I don't want that either. It seems to me it's okay to open, and we'll make some boundaries. It's not like if I'm not talking, then they're not talking or thinking about it. It's there. They're discussing it. They are afraid of what will happen to them when they'll be back home after seeing or witnessing these things." So that was the first intervention. And then, the question whether a mental health officer will meet soldiers in the battlefield was something that was discussed. For me, it was quite clear because a war is something that looks like nonstop, but it actually, for either of the sides, you have a lot of time in which you basically do nothing or don't do a lot. So you hide in some place, you seek in some location, you wait for something to happen. It's not like you're always shooting or getting shot at, right? And then it's a matter of risk assessment. If this location is less risky and the soldiers are already there for, 8 hours or so, then it might be better for me to go there and talk with their commander and kind of guide them on how to intervene in that situation.
Or I was thinking of what you said, have a set narrative, but a coherent one. And it makes me think about the idea of I call it the trauma network. That's how I've learned about it, where you have this primary emotion when it's connected to feeling helpless or out of control. That's basically trauma. And usually that primary emotion is sadness. But because it's hard for us as human beings to hold sadness and feeling out of control, we go to secondary emotion as a way of avoidance. And the big ones are fight, flight, or shame, actually. Like, I'm going to blame myself, which is the ultimate way of getting control. It's all my fault. I'm a horrible person. And that idea of you're breaking that network and have them sit with a sadness, which is the signal of something is lost, can be needs or can be an actual loss, abstract loss. I think it's so profound. And I'm wondering how do you do that while giving them a sense of control in a situation that is so uncontrolled?
So first we are very good at fantasizing about the reality, right? We always think we control things more than we actually do. It's like, what's it called? The depressive realism and stuff like that. You probably heard of those things. So I want to say the intervention, at least at that stage, and it depends on the soldiers, but generally the intervention is first just to make the story straight between the group of soldiers. And usually I'm not the one who's leading it. I'm guiding it. I'm talking with, but the commander needs to lead it because he's gonna be their commander for the next few weeks, days, years, whatever. And so the basic thing is just to understand what happened, kind of from the perspective of different soldiers and different people, and then to build something. And once you do that, you try to look for the signs of action or something that's more competent and kind of give it a little more space. and also to notice when some of them are feeling very helpless or seeing that they are detached or something, which means that they are more at risk and might need more intervention later. So and for example, a very simple question when you ask a soldier to tell what happened, and he said something and said it was hard. I don't know. I thought I might die or something like that. And then you ask him, okay, and what helped you survive this kind of thing? And then he can say something like, well, I was really down after what happened, and then my friend came, like, gave me a slap on my back and said, dude, I have to make coffee now, or something like that. And I was like woken up. So my friends helped me, or the commander helped me, or I thought about someone and I remembered I need to. So something that, like, kind of, again, focusing that specific person on something that helped them find strength. It's not ideal, but in that situation, it might be good. Give you an example. A group of soldiers, it weren't my soldiers, who entered a building that was booby-trapped, and 4 soldiers died there. They had a lot of wounded there. So they entered to help them. And following that event, they had this conversation within like 24 hours or so. And in that conversation, one of the soldiers said something like, I entered the building when I saw the scene, when I saw what's going on, I couldn't bear it and I went outside. And now I feel like because of me, those people died. And then his friends told him something like, what? Yeah, it's true. You went outside, but you came back like within 5 seconds or so, and you did that, and you helped that, and you helped with me with this one. So, and this is, well, I don't know how this person feels right now, but generally, if we think about this window of how the narrative is kind of consolidated, if he didn't hear that, then he might walk his entire life basically feeling like he did something, and because of him someone lost his life or something like that, and because he couldn't bear that. But his friends, when they kind of corrected him at that situation in real time, so it's less reasonable that they're just telling that so he'll kind of feel less ashamed or something. Again, the chances that he will be more okay with something, with that story, are higher.
That is powerful. And I think about the power, obviously, of connection. When we think of resilience and we think of like the power of safe relationships and connective relationships, and then you're pairing that with like in that moment, versus like weeks, months, years later. I mean, that's incredibly powerful. I'm curious. So this obviously is new of mental health, like, and you're probably not even calling it mental health, like, in a war. I don't know if that is that called mental health?
No, we do. No. Yeah, I am the mental health officer, and one of the things I did is to try to unstigmatize the whole process. I kind of ran through the ranks saying, hi, I'm the mental health officer. And then I just kind of sit with them, I don't know, whatever, drinking coffee or something. And it's okay to see this person, this mental health officer, around soldiers. It's okay. And this is one thing. And that I try to kind of generate this feeling of, first, this is another person that we see here. And the second is, of course, that you try to make it seems like you're more available to them if they need, right?
It sounds like it's something very novel of being in war, providing mental health.
I think this idea of kind of actually meeting the soldiers in beyond enemy lines is novel. I would say that that idea of using those processes is something that's very rooted now. I was very surprised to hear a relatively high-ranked commander of a very kind of esteemed unit, and he said something like, you are warriors. You need to you walked out now. You need to restock your ammunition. You need to make sure your rifle is working well. This is the same. You need to make sure your mind, your soul are okay. Without those things, you cannot go on as we expect you to. So I was like, okay, so this is something that's now kind of like much less stigmatized, right? It's okay. Everyone are talking about it. That's good.
I think it's so pioneering. I mean, I'm sitting here like just shocked basically because when I was in the army, I mean, obviously it was like you don't talk about mental health. And the fact that it's from like higher rank, now it's like you need to put money in your bank. Like you need to get those research going. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to function mentally or physically. And that people actually get it. It's amazing. And my other thought about it was, that idea of you're providing first aid, right? It's like it's literally there, just like as if you were like an ambulance coming to the scene, you're patching the wounds as they go. And I think that by itself is so interesting in terms of just resiliency. And we talked a lot in the podcast about post-traumatic growth, but resiliency, like getting them to be able to bounce back, um, even though they've been through hell and back in a way, or at least increase their chances of healing. I think it's so profound.
We know that most people who underwent some traumatic event will recover. And like most, we mean more than 80%, 85% or so. It depends on the event. It depends on whatever happened. But it still leaves between 10 to 20% of the people who do develop PTSD, right? So, but it's quite a lot. Most people are assuming that if they underwent some traumatic event, they will for sure be scarred forever. And it's not necessarily the case. So what I'm trying to say is at one point, the idea was don't touch it, don't do anything, let the natural process of recovery work. And it's reasonable to think that. And now we try to basically do something it's not treatment, it's not therapy, it's more building resilience, more kind of getting the chances of resilience better. Some of the soldiers, for example, they after something really bad happens, the instinct sometimes is I just want to go to a safe place to be with my family or something, right? And it's not what we advise to do, right? We advise it's like falling out from your bike. You need to get on your bike again, which is unreasonable in a war situation because you can really get hurt. But still, this is what we suggest, and they ask that. They ask, will that help me be okay later on? Because my instinct here is basically I want to be someplace else now, and then I need to tell them, that's the way to go.
When you talked about at the beginning, they're young, and I don't think a lot of people understand, like, one, the age of people who are going into IDF, and then two, I'm thinking like their brains aren't even fully developed. So I would think that is both like the impact of trauma obviously is significant, but the impact of resilience is significant. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the conscript army is 18 to 21, give or take. Some people are 19 to 22, something like that. That's the general. So most of those are quite young. And once they're out of that, they basically are automatically recruited into the reserve force. And regarding your question about the brain development, that's an interesting one. Well, there are some studies about younger children. Professor Tottenham from Columbia University has a few of those that basically the claim is that the brain is becoming older sooner. So the disadvantage is that it loses a flexibility sooner in a way, but it's like still you can do some things to change it a bit, but definitely things are kind of shaping during these years.
Yeah, my question is about the diversity piece of it. So obviously there is this common mechanism of they're in the battlefield, right? We're soldiers, we're going to war, we're going to protect Israel. But I also know that a lot of the soldiers in Israel coming from different backgrounds, different cultures. You have Druze in the army, you have Arab Israeli, you have Israelis, you have Russians, you have Ethiopians. I mean, you have everything from everything. And when I'm thinking about an intervention, how do you capture it all? How do you make it culturally sensitive while building resilience, while helping them maintain kind of like what they need to in order to keep fighting? How do you put, I mean, just to me, it's like mind blowing. How do you put everything together?
You give me too much credit. Mostly, their commander is already doing that on a day-to-day basis, right? Because that person is having these soldiers needs to tell them what to do or take them to some kind of a mission. And with every person and his idiosyncrasies and cultural background. Definitely during a war when they are with each other 24/7, they start to know each other very well. And sometimes you see, and I tell them that, and it's like the best person to say if someone is like a bit off is you. You're his friends. You know them better than me for sure. And then you can talk with me I can give some advice or ask some kind of guiding questions. But like, let's say if there is a person who doesn't talk usually, he doesn't talk, and definitely not about emotions. That's not their go-to. But still, their friends kind of notice that something is different in the way they behave, or maybe I have some specific cases where it was really moving to see like a person who doesn't talk about emotion. He doesn't know how to, but he came to like friends and kind of crying a bit. It's like something is wrong with me. I know something. I don't know what words should I use or how, but I know something is not okay. And then the work is to find the words, for example.
Like, how do you sort of focus on your own resilience and healing as that's sort of the focus that you're doing for others?
It's I'll start with the story. So on October 9th, I went to one of the kibbutzes that was majorly hit, and I was there with the soldiers. They were very nice to me. I didn't know them before, but they were really like accepting and stuff. And I have a friend. She's in London at UCL or something, and she knows I'm not very talkative or textative, but she kind of asked me what's going on, like maybe 2-3 times a day, at those days at least. And usually it's like, okay. And then I said something like, mediocre. Like I changed the word a bit. I think it made her worry. But I think, well, what we do is I'm not the only mental health officer in a brigade, and definitely not in the division. And we have the mental health officer of the division. She's like a conscript army, so and we have and so we kind of created some kind of a group, mostly to discuss professional things, but we are all therapists, so you know how it goes. And also it helps me with my resilience to feel like I know something, or to argue with someone. It gives me strength, and like I know even if someone is making me angry, definitely then I have more energy.
So it's basically giving support to others, which is a way of gaining control while figuring out a way to navigate secondary trauma and first-hand trauma because you were there. That's a lot. And you started a conversation by saying, I'm going to go to intellectualization. Just noting that I think there is something about, we're all mental health professional here where this is our go-to, right? We're going to go and we're going to help. But I think the fact that you're able to pause for a second, even with this one different word that you gave to your friend, by the way, very similar to what you're saying about the soldiers, right? She noticed, just like they're noticing the battlefield. I think it's just there's so many parallel when you're trying to help a community, a country that is traumatized and going through it all together. I mean, the layers are endless of the parallels between everything that we're all going through. And very different. I'm going to bring it back to the US. One of the things that you mentioned before, and we kind of skim over is that the fact that in Israel, when you're 18, you join the army, and in the US, when you're 18, you go to college. So for you, when you're seeing what's happening in colleges here and the polarization that's happening, while you see 18-year-old being called for duty to protect the country, what is it like for you to be there and see that?
I'm worried. I'm mostly worried. I'm worried also at things that happens in Israel, but I'm worried that extremism and populism will eventually will take us to bad places, both in the US and in Israel. And many times it's very upsetting for me because I feel like they do not understand something. I try to remember that I have a very specific way of looking at things because I'm from here and have this. So I think it's important to hear criticism from outside. Like sometimes we do not behave the way we expect ourselves to behave. I agree. I accept that. And I think so criticism is good. Even if it might make me upset or angry, I think it's important. But when you feel it like it's like too far from being even, like when you feel like your existence is at risk or is not acknowledged, then it's off.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think this is very validating to hear. I think that the lack of acknowledgement, that invalidation of the Jewish experience and the Israeli experience is the part that for me triggers the trauma. That's the moment that I get hopeless. Like, okay, there's no one to speak with. Like, there will not. Here, you ask for evidence. Here's evidence. No, you made it up. Like, there is something about that one-sided story that's really hard, I think, for me to sit with as someone in the academia. And I'm with you. I mean, criticism. I landed in Israel and went to like one of the protests against the government, right? Like, I'm all about criticism, but I am worried about where the academia is going and for opportunities for Israeli students to come to universities in the U.S. and to be part of research and labs. And I mean, for you as a researcher, Israel is one place, but the world, right? Like, I want to see the work that you're doing all over the world, not just in Israel. And those are the parts that I'm worried about. How do we get those amazing brains to the rest of the world, even though they're Israelis?
I'm not going to be very optimistic at this part of the conversation. I'm sorry, because I'll say even more. I'll say that Israel, without the collaboration with great institutions around the world, we cannot do anything, basically. We are a small country. We have some budget for that, but it's really not anything like substantial. And most of our work is basically based on collaborations with European scientists and US scientists mostly, but of course Canadians and Australians and whatever. And we have those conversations in my institution, for example, and predictions are dire. Mostly say that the situation will get worse and worse, not better. It seems that many that are, let's say, stop returning emails or something, which by the way, I personally didn't have any experience like that. But most of my work, either with Israelis that are a position abroad, or with their, I don't know, very close colleagues. But I have like a colleague here, a friend, who said that he's working with a group for 10 years or so, and they just stopped answering his emails on October. And he guessed that, and he doesn't know, he just guesses, but he guessed, and this is interesting to hear the rationalization, right? He guessed that it's not that they don't want to cooperate with him, it's that they are afraid. And they are from some European country. They're afraid, they don't want the mess. So they don't want like kind of people demonstrating because they are in touch with an Israel. But what we expect is that these things will be more and more common because, again, mostly because our potential colleagues will just not, they don't want the mess. It's like, yeah, I can have a collaboration with someone from Germany or with someone from Israel. With someone from Germany, everything will be no problems for sure. With someone from Israel, I'll probably have some issues. I don't want that. So I prefer to go with this one. And this is the silent kind of boycotting that we are most worried about. It's not that we're too worried about those voices like your genocidal people, whatever. Yeah, there are some, but they are clear of their position. The ones that just like want make contact because they don't want this.
I mean, I so appreciate what you're saying because I think that there's a danger, obviously, that we're seeing of grouping entire countries. Like, as Miri was saying, she was protesting the government. I haven't been like the biggest supporter of the policies in Israel or America. But I am not blaming the people of that country, just like I've never been blamed for who is running our country. And so the danger of that, I think, is pretty profound, which is what obviously we're all seeing with the boycotts of Israeli scholars. And, as we continue, I mean, we're hoping that this podcast could be helpful in terms of American universities, especially to hear the humanity of each person and really the power of relationships, which is how we started, whether it's partnerships of universities, of people, individuals, micro, macro, or meso on these levels. So we've been asking each guest two of the same questions. So one is, what will you do this week for your own healing?
It's a hard question this specific week. It's a very busy one. Honestly, when I come back home and see my family, like my wife and kids, it gives me a lot of strength and resilience.
So in like professional term, we're gonna say you're gonna practice gratitude.
And then our last question that we ask each guest is, what was it like to tell your story today?
Oh, it's an interesting experience. I have to say I was a bit anxious before, and yeah, usually I'm not used to be on the spot of the things like the person, but you made it comfortable and nice.
I am just so grateful for who you are. I'm so grateful for your heartbeat and your higher brain, of course.
Thank you. I'm really happy to like take part of this podcast and really happy we've met. That was a kind of a coincidence, but still, it happened.
Please send us more from your research. You speak my language, so I want to learn more. I want to read more, and I'm hoping that bringing those stories alive would open the door because this is so important. The fact that you're doing this amazing work, and if we can bring it to other places, like Susie was saying, like this is something that her students should listen to as well. I feel like we're preventing, but people don't understand we're preventing all this amazing research and collaboration to happen because of judgment and because of assumption. So thank you for being honest and for just sharing your truth. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thanks.
We'd like to thank our listeners, music composer Jonathan Bargiora, sound designer Ivan Reyes, podcast advisor Donna Fazzari, and special thanks to the Academic Engagement Network for their generous support. Today's episode is co-produced by Professor Susie Hess and Dr. Miri Bar Halprin. Our Stories Matter, We Will Dance Again is brought to you by Trauma Informed LA. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and at our website at traumainformedla.org. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes so more folks can have access and donate to traumainformedla.org so we can keep recording and healing through our storytelling episodes.